Hello, my name is Derek, and today I'm going to show you how easy it is to build an MCP server using Spring and Spring AI. So let's jump right in. MCP stands for Model Context Protocol. MCP. It sounds fancy, but really it is a standardized way to call functionality. So to call tools or to call functions like you would have in a standard application, but using a standardized protocol, and even better yet, one that can be remote. The basic pieces of MCP are, first, you have your MCP host. This is really just the piece of code that is going to be having an MCP client calling out to an MCP server. The MCP server is where you're going to run your function. So you might have an MCP server for getting the weather. You might have an MCP server for interacting with GitHub, etc. So the agent here, this could be something like Claude Code, OpenClaw, Hermes, or your own agent that you are writing. Really, it's just a piece of code that is running and coordinating that AI process. Now, it is not the actual model, so it is going to reach out and talk to your model. So something like GPT, Anthropic and Claude, or Gemini, etc. But it will also host the MCP client. Now, if you're using an out-of-the-box agent, something like Claude Code or OpenClaw, you're not going to have to write the MCP client. It has the capability to instantiate one or more MCP clients. What you're likely going to be doing is plugging in either an existing MCP server, or what we're going to do today is write our own MCP server, something that could make reservations or appointments is what we'll do today. We're going to implement that MCP server using Spring, and then we'll hook it up to a test MCP client, as well as we'll hook it up to Claude to show that. So again, the three pieces with MCP are the server, what we're going to write today, the client. We may demo that, but generally that's going to be built into whatever agent you have, unless you're writing your own custom agent. And the MCP host, probably not going to reference a lot, but that would be your agent or your harness that is hosting the clients and calling out to the model in the MCP server. The flow here is going to be very similar to what you did with tool or function calling. So a client would talk to the agent and say, hey, I want to do something. The agent is going to talk to a model and provide that prompt, the system prompt, the memory, as well as a list of MCP servers, and their functionality to the model. So if I say, hey, I want to make a reservation at 3 p.m., the agent's going to tell the model, hey, Derek wants to make a reservation at 3 p.m. I also have this reservation MCP server that has a function or a tool that is to make a reservation. The model is going to come back and say, hey, go ahead and call that MCP server to make the reservation, get the response, feed that back to me, and then we'll get back to the client, whatever's calling the agent, to say, hey, I've made your reservation. So let's go ahead and jump right in to create this. The first thing we're going to do is go to our favorite website, start.spring.io, and we are going to create a new project. We will call this MCP. Don't autocorrect me. I know it wants to. And we're going to add dependencies. And the only dependency we need is MCP server. That's it. So let's go ahead and generate that. It'll download it, and I'm going to go ahead and open it in code. First thing we can look at is our build.gradle. Very standard Spring build.gradle. The one thing you'll notice here is we have this one dependency, which is the Spring AI starter for an MCP server. That's all we need. Let's make sure this builds as is. That better work, because all we have here is our MCP application. This is great, standard boot application. We actually want to go ahead and add a new Java file. new Java class, and we will make this our reservation service. This will be a Spring service, so Spring will instantiate it. And we're going to want to create a couple of tools here. So, and think of these as what functions would you want to provide in your reservation service. So we can have a public string create reservation, and maybe let's go ahead and fill that out, and maybe a public string list reservations. Got it. Yeah, that's a decent start to prove the point. What we're going to do is annotate this as an MCP tool for both of these. An MCP can provide tools, it can provide prompts, and it can provide resources. Resources would be like additional data. So we're going to just start with tools here. For this create reservation, and it's angry because I'm not returning anything, but first thing we're going to do is what is the reservation? So we want a string, call it input. And this we're going to annotate to let MCP know that it needs to pass it in. So this will be an MCP tool param. And this we will give a description, and the description here will be date and time. We'll keep this pretty simple. We'll also give this a description, which will be create a reservation. And for this, here you would do business logic, and we're just going to return reservation created for, and then we'll say input. Very simple. For this one, we will also give it a description, and we will have this one be list all reservations. We are not going to take any input here because it's a list all, so we will just do return. We can say one Monday at 5 p.m. to Tuesday at 6 p.m. Something very simple. So that is it for the actual tool calls. So let's go ahead and save this. One other big thing we have to do, we're starting out, and I should have showed that before, but you have a couple of ways of having the agent, the client, call your server. This way to start out is just over standard I/O, so locally on the same machine. And then you can also do that over a web call. If you're using standard I/O, you need to make sure that you're not dumping a bunch of text to the console, to standard I/O. So we need to disable that. And the way we do it is in our application.properties. And there are two properties that we want to set. One is spring.main.banner mode equals off. This will turn off the big Spring banner. I'm sorry, Josh Long, don't hate me. We got to do it for this. And then the second one is logging.threshold.console equals off. So we are going to turn off logging to the console. Let's go ahead and make sure this works. So we will run it here locally and just make sure nothing gets printed out to the console. So there's nothing, this is just VS Code printing out that it's running the thing, but there's no output going to the console. So that's good. Now we want to actually go ahead and invoke this. And we're going to do it from a simple test harness. So let me stop this. The test harness that we want is something called MCP Inspector. So you can see it here, MCP Inspector. You can follow the installation instructions, which is really simple with Node. And basically, we're just going to run this command npx. So if we go ahead and bring up my terminal, we can run npx. model context protocol inspector. And this will give me a URL that I can open in my browser. So we'll copy that and paste that in. And this is the MCP inspector. We are going to connect it up to our application. We're starting with standard IO. And the command we're going to run, I've done this before so you can see it in here, but we're running Java. And then we're going to run -jar, and we want to put in the path to our Spring Boot jar. So if we go back to code, where did code go? There we go. Let's find the path of that jar. So this will be in build libs. And if we do an ls there, there's the jar that we want, the not the plain jar, we want the fat jar, the Uber jar that has all of the Spring Boot dependencies in it. We can come back to the browser. That's the jar, and we just have to give it the full path. So this will be my user directory libs. It'll be very similar for you, just wherever you're running that project. And we need to put that in front of our jar. So we're going to run Java -jar, standard command to run a boot application. And this will actually be the client that is running the command, so we don't need to be running it. And let's hit connect. All right, we're connected. So that means it's got the basic connection. We don't have any resources or prompts yet, but we do have tools. So let's list our tools. And we see that we have our two tools, one for creating a reservation and one for listing a reservation. Let's go ahead and create a reservation, and we'll say today at noon. Run the tool. We get back our response, reservation created for today at noon. And if we go ahead and do list reservations, there are no parameters. We can run the tool, and we see Monday at 5, Tuesday at 6, the things we hard coded. So that is how easy it is to create an MCP server that you can go ahead and plug into different agents or anything that is going to be your MCP client. Things like Claude or Claude Code, for example. Let me show you also how easy it is to add resources and prompts. Although these are less common. For example, Claude, the Claude app that you run on your desktop, only supports tools, not resources and prompts. We don't have any right now, so let's go ahead and just add that to VS Code. So we'll come back to our reservation service. So the resources could be something like a list of possible restaurants with their description, more information that you want to provide back, similar to RAG, but not quite. Still coming dynamically from the MCP server. And this will be at MCP resource. And this will be public. And we will make it a list of strings, a list of string for the return type. And we could say get reservation types. Something like that. And we'll just do a return and list dot of, and we can say, hey, reservation type 1, comma, reservation type 2. Yeah, something really simple. Let's go ahead and organize my imports to get the list, clean up my formatting there too. And we just have to provide a couple other things here. First, we will provide a description, and we can say, get the details of the types of available reservations. Probably misspelled some of that. The other thing we have to provide, which is required, is a URI, some way to identify that. We're just going to make that something simple. This allows you to start to map different pieces to different URIs. And I think we need the MIME type, which here is just going to be text plain, but this could be something like JSON or YAML that we're replying back with. The other part we want to do here is we will do an MCP prompt. And this allows you to provide recommended prompts back to the agent. So again, the agent is going to call your service to get the prompts back, but this will help guide it in providing those prompts to the model that it is going to talk to. Again, I've not seen this as frequently, but it is available here. So this will be an MCP prompt, and we can say public string, if I can spell, get prompt, wow, P-R-O-M-T. Okay, and then here we can just say turn, and the prompt could be something like create a look up available types of reservations, then ask to create a reservation. I don't know, something that is guiding the model, giving it prompt tuning effectively to better interact with your MCP server. And this will just need a couple of things. So it will need a name, and we can just call this, my prompt. And then it will need a description. So reservation prompt. Okay, so got a resource, got a prompt. Let's go ahead and rebuild this. That is done. We'll come back to our test client. We will restart it. And now if we do list resources, we have resources. It's reservation type 1, reservation type 2. And we have the prompt, list prompt, my prompt. And we can get the prompt here. So useful things that an agent, if you're building, or the client that you're building, can get back from your MCP server. Now this is all great over standard IO, but that limits you to just working where that agent is running. So that can be beneficial if you are running, the Claude app on your laptop and you want to give it more functionality to run on your laptop. But very frequently you're going to want to be able to connect to these remotely. So over the web. So let's go ahead and enable that in our Spring project. And that's actually a really easy change to make. And the change we're going to make is we'll come back to our build.gradle. We will switch out our starter for WebMVC. So this will enable it to talk over HTTP, so over the web. And then we will also need to, sure we can synchronize, we will also need to modify our application.properties. We can turn our banner back on. We can turn logging back on because we're no longer using standard IO. And we're going to add 3 more properties here, which I'll paste in. Number 1, we're going to do synchronous. So synchronous responses. We already have the name there. And then I don't know if you actually need this one, but we'll turn off standard IO. So let's go ahead and build that. And we will go ahead and run this. So this application we can run now. So we will run it. It is started up. Let's go back to our test client. We will disconnect. And here we're going to want to connect to localhost. It should be 8080 as standard. And let's go ahead and hit connect. And great. So let me go ahead and clear this and just make sure we're getting it. We still have our resources, clear the prompts. We still have our prompts and tools. We still have our tools. And now this is all going over HTTP, so you can communicate to this remotely. And then you get into all of the considerations there for how to connect to it securely. Where you're going to host this thing. Are you using SSL? That is a whole set of topics that is outside the scope of this. Future me here, I just wanted to show you how much more work this is if you were to build this without Spring. Without Spring, here is a very similar application that I created that has resources, has prompts, and has tool calling. And I'm not going to even walk you through it, but it is what, 171 lines, and you can just look here. We are doing JSON manipulation for inputs and outputs. You have to manually register your tools with the MCP server. This was very complicated to get working. The documentation left a lot to be desired. There is a lot of trial and error and probably cursing. And even the dependencies here were, a significant number of dependencies that I had to manually bring in and specify the versions. So as compared to Spring, so much easier with Spring and so much more manual configuration, parsing inputs and outputs. Spring just makes it so much simpler. Don't do it straight with Java. Do it with Spring. You won't regret it. So that's our MCP server. Now let's go ahead and, instead of using the little test client, let's go ahead and flip over to the Claude app on OS X and hook this up to Claude. Okay, let's go ahead and hook this up in Claude Code. I have to do this from my personal laptop. I can't install Claude Code on my other laptop, so the video may be a little different, little weird. But I have Claude Code running here. And if you go to Claude Code, you can say Claude settings. We're going to go to developer, and we're going to edit our config. You've got to edit the JSON here manually. It'll show you where it is. You can double click to open that, which will open it in VS Code. Wow, that's fine. Update it, that's fine. And at the very top here, I already have an MCP server. You might have to add the section, but I'm going to add a new MCP server here. So I will do comma, and this is VS Code basically saying, hey, we're going to autocomplete this for you, which is actually kind of convenient. I always forget how to get that to save. So it's basically going to template it for me, which is fine. So we're going to name this reservations. And then very similar to before, we want the command is Java. And for args, we're going to do Java -jar. And then we just want to get rid of that. We're going to want to give it a path, which will go find out the path to my application again. So let's open PyTerm, and this one is in Workspace, Spring MCP. Let's go ahead and run a build to make sure we have it. And this will again go in build libs. So if we get that directory, we can copy it. And then we just need the name of the jar. We will / paste that in. We can save this, quit. We do have to relaunch Claude Code, so I will quit that. And we will open Claude again. And we're looking for, we don't want to see an error pop up. It will if you've misconfigured something. And we can make sure we've got it enabled two ways. We can go back to the settings developer and we will see reservations. We see it's running. We can check out the logs if we were having issues. And we can also see it here under connectors. We have a new one for reservations. So we could say, hey, make me a reservation for 5 p.m. on Friday. See what Claude does. Finding tools popped up there. Ooh, Claude's getting fancy. Let's say, hey, sure, it's a restaurant for just me. I didn't do that. That's all Claude. Great. So it created the reservation. Now let's ask it, what reservations do I have? So listing reservations, and hey, it's got the 2 reservations that we hard coded in there. And I think it's taunting me here saying, hey, you also just made one, but for some reason your tool is not showing it. But that's the point. You can now go and add the business logic to create any MCP server that you need. We've just seen how easy it is to create that and hook it up using Spring. Thanks for watching.